Hello and welcome back. Continuing on with this procedurally generated terrain R&D session with Mr. Lee Renault. I guess it's time to go from debug lines to some actual geometry.
Yeah, if we want to actually have people running around on this,
Yeah,
I don't think the lines are going to help out too much.
No, I don't think your character's going to do well if it's just kind of dropped right now.
Right.
Unless it's teeny and you drop it right on top of one of the spheres. All right, let's go ahead and hit stop there. And
Right.
So where do we begin?
Well, let's jump back into code real quick. We need to do a little bit of house cleaning. Right now we have all these fake vertices, which are spheres. We don't really need them right now. So I'm going to go ahead and comment them out.
Okay.
Just in case I decide that I do want them back, I don't have to recode all this.
Right.
Now, with creating a mesh, there's some overhead that we're going to have to deal with and some more things that we have to keep track of. So, most of those being UVs and triangles.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get into the UV part of it right now, but I want to get it ready to go.
Right. Not to stress. We're going to get into that, I believe, in the next video.
Yep. So, UVs are going to be stored in a list of vector 2s. And triangles are just a list of indexes. So to hold those, I just need an integer. So nothing fancy. And what triangles are, being indexes, they are indexes to which vertices they're made up of. So we have to sequentially number the vertices in sets of 3 in clockwise winding order as I'm making all kinds of hand gestures once again.
I see that.
So, yeah, but you get to see all kinds of cool things. All right, now there's a few more structures we also need. And, you know, it'd help if I brought my notes up because there's a lot of stuff. All right, we need to create a mesh. Now, a mesh has to have an object. Everything in Unity is pretty much a game object. So we need a game object. So we're going to create a game object, and I'm going to call this my mesh object. I'm also going to need a mesh filter, and this mesh filter I'm going to call mesh filter. I'm being really original with my naming. Now, the mesh filter is what actually holds our mesh. We need to be able to draw that mesh, so we need a mesh renderer. And yes, you've already probably guessed it, it is called Mesh Renderer. Now, we're going to need a structure to hold our mesh that we pass into the mesh filter. So we need a mesh called mesh. Now there's a couple of other things that also go into a mesh, things like colliders and materials, but we'll get to that when we get to texturing, and we'll get to the collider when we actually need it.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So we'll leave that off for now. Now, this is a very interesting subject with meshes and the way Unity handles them, particularly the way garbage collection works and the way things are initialized. If it's not done in the right order, you'll end up either not seeing your mesh, having the mesh collider not generated at all or incorrectly, or everything working on the surface but the garbage collector not throwing stuff away. And this is the fastest way that you can eat through memory in Crash Unity that I've found.
Okay.
So a lot of trial and error went into the process of which order to add all this stuff in. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The first thing we need to do is change up all this draw line code to actually add our triangles for our mesh. And being that we're no longer going to be drawing a grid, we're going to be creating our mesh. So create mesh. Now what we need to do is convert these into triangles. The same principle is still there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do triangles dot add, and I need 3 of them. I need our index. That's our first one. Our next one is going to be the index plus size. And as you can see, I'm drawing from one point to the next point, and then from that next point to the third point, from the third point back to the first point. So I need to go in the same order. So I have to start with the first point to the second point. I can skip it here, but I need that third point. So I'm going to grab this third point, which is this one right here. And this is the important thing. These have to be added in clockwise order. Otherwise, you just don't see the face.
Now, triangles is a...
yeah, it's an index. So this vertice part doesn't go in. It's the index part that I need.
Yeah, that's what it's complaining about, because the vertices, of course, you're containing a vector 3. Right.
So I need to copy what's inside of quotes, not the whole thing. So take that. All right, now... same principle here. So I need index. Need this one. And then I need this one. And then I no longer need these. Come down here. And I'll prep this part too. All right. Index. Oh, wrong button.
Yeah, I don't know what hotkey you hit there. Very nice.
Not the one I expected. All right, let's get back to where I was. Let's try that again. And this time it's index plus 1. Index plus size plus 1.
Plus 2.
And I can kill this. Now, this is creating our triangles. We've already created all of our vertices.
It's creating our triangles, or it's just populating a list full
Well, it's creating a population of triangles. These are actually defining the triangles. When it gets set the mesh will mesh render will handle all of the actual creating.
Okay.
And even then, it doesn't really handle all the creation. It hands this list off to the graphics card, and the graphic card goes, "Oh yeah, okay, I know what to do with this."
Gotcha.
And then it makes it. So this populates all of our lists. We don't have UVs yet. So we need to now go in to start making our mesh. Up to now, we've created some objects to hold the information, but we haven't initialized them. So we need to go ahead and create a new game object. And this game object is going to be called mesh. I'm being really original with my naming again. And then I need to add some components to this game object, otherwise it's not really going to do anything. So we're going to take our mesh object and we're going to add. Let's start off with a mesh filter. Copy this. I also want a mesh render. So this gives me the ability to give our game object a mesh and render out that mesh. Now we need to make our mesh structure. So we're going to take our mesh and we're going to make a new mesh. Now, a little tidbit, and this isn't really going to come into play here, but if you're trying to change meshes on this, let's say we've got this terrain and we're going to be modifying it in real time, game time. Instead of creating this new mesh here, We create it in the initial, but the very first thing that we have to do here is a mesh clear. It's the very first thing you want to do. So you want to clear that mesh out. You can still go in and create a new mesh down here if you want, but if you don't clear that mesh out, it doesn't get removed from memory. The garbage collector will never hit it, and it will eat up your memory like crazy. So that one took a while to find. Just a little tidbit for later. All right, now we've created our new mesh structure, or object. We need to populate it. So we need to set its vertices. Now, we have a list of vertices, but this one's an array. So what we'll do is we'll take our vertices and we'll convert them to an array. Then we need to send it our triangles. Same thing, triangles to array. Now, we've set it up initially, but we have no normals. And we could calculate all of our normals ourselves, which could get kind of complicated. Luckily, Unity has included this nice little method called recalculate normals. So it'll do all the hard work for us. Frankly, I'm not looking forward to the day I have to go in and calculate normals myself. Now we need to assign our mesh to our mesh filter. So we're going to call up mesh filter, and we're going to tell it to get the mesh filter component, because right now it has nothing. We've added a mesh filter component to our object, but mesh filter has nothing, and we need to be able to reference it. So to find it, we've got to go to mesh object, and we've got to go get component. The component that we're looking for is going to be mesh filter, and we're going to cast that as a mesh filter. Once I have our mesh filter, I can then take its mesh and assign it a reference to the mesh that we've just populated. I also need to get our, well, let's see, I don't really need our mesh renderer yet, only because I'm not assigning a material. Otherwise, I'd have to do our mesh render. So nothing else is in there. So this should give us what we need to, and that's going to be upset because
you changed the name.
Yep.
And by the way, calculating the surface normals is not that bad at all. We've actually done it in a video before. I think over in the C++ open.
I haven't gone through that.
And what's it squawking about now?
Because it's still in the train demos update.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Because it's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, just to keep things clean, this is no longer going to be public. I don't want anybody else to get to that. So now, let's see what happens. Should be something pink, purple, or nothing.
Or an error.
Fail triangles. Oh yeah, it got upset. Let's see what
referencing out of bounds.
Yep, which is going to be an indexing issue. So index. So what are you upset about? Got all my vertices. Let's check something. All right. We're adding, I know all this part works right. So it's saying my count for creating the mesh is off. Okay. As it goes quiet.
Well, since you're just scrolling up and down looking, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and pause the video.
Mm-hmm.
Just since you're not making any adjustments, you're just looking for where the typo is. So we'll be right back. All right, so we're back. And yeah, that's sometimes the simplest little mistakes.
Yeah, you know, spend all that time going through, there's got to be something wrong with the equations, the calculations. No, not really. It ends up being something like where you create the grid and then you change it to create mesh and forgetting to create the grid. Yeah. Something stupid.
I'm sure somebody was watching this getting a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, they're probably yelling at the screen, you dummy.
But while we're in here, there is one other problem.
Yeah, we did find one other one. Again, it's a mesh renderer, not a mesh render.
Mesh renderer.
Yeah. So we build this out,
All right,
and
so
hopefully if
the only
Unity
two changes.
Yep. So hopefully if Unity didn't get too pissed off, we hit play, and it did. So it crashed when we blew up. So I'll have to close this, and let's go ahead and open it up again. Every once in a while, you'll do something to blow up Unity. I do it about every 20 minutes.
No, it's not that bad.
So now let's try it. So if I go ahead and run, we got something pink here. Well, that's or magenta. So it's square. That's good. If I click on it, it's got our mesh.
Very nice.
So if we look over here, we have our mesh filter. There's our mesh that we're creating procedurally.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our mesh renderer, so you know I can turn it on and off.
Awesome.
And cast shadows and receive shadows. Though this does nothing, and it's not going to do anything here either because we don't have any UVs. So we also don't have any texture stuff.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So now if you wanted to hit stop on this and then go back over, you can play with different sizes and
Yep. If
densities and verify that the mesh is properly adjusting.
Work with everything. So let's go to the demo. And now that I don't have those little spheres in the way,
Yeah.
I can do things like maybe turn this up to 128. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's say 4.
Okay.
Now if I come back to Unity and I hit play, I've got something that looks fairly large.
Yes. Scroll, 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 scroll.
Tilt the camera.
Very nice. All right.
We've got land. No, actually we just have a pink flat.
Yeah, we'd
plane.
fall right through it. It really wouldn't work out too
Right.
well for us.
So, you know,
Oh,
but
is
it's
that-
a start.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this, yeah, and of course you see triangles everywhere, but if you look for the hexagon patterns, you see hexagons everywhere.
Yep. So if we had a soft selection brush, we could start pulling up and we'd get a nice little mounding effect
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't look like little pyramids everywhere.
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to do in this video?
Not in this video.
Okay.
But I do definitely want to do something about the way this looks in the next video.
Okay. So which means I take it we're going to get into some UVs and get a texture in, put a quick material together and all that good stuff?
Yes.
Outstanding. All right, well, that's going to wrap this video up. Thanks a lot.